And after 3 games, for everybody in the National Football League, we've got updated win totals, massive line movement. So we're going to go over the ones that really pop to us, whether there's betting opportunities or not. Massive line movement. I think it's pretty interesting. And Sam, I'll start things off. We've got to go with our Minnesota Vikings, a team that we keep betting on, we keep cashing tickets on. So we've got to begin with them. So in the offseason, their win total was 6.5. Everybody had them destined for the last place spot in the NFC North, and they're out to a 3-0 start against a very challenging schedule, especially the last couple of games with San Francisco and what we saw this week against Houston. They made quick work of the Houston Texans. That one seemed non-competitive throughout. So we have 3 games in. Minnesota sitting 3-0. The win total 6.5 in the offseason. Now we're at 10.5. 10.5. They are the second favorite in the NFC North behind the Detroit Lions. Slightly juiced to the under. Not much. We're talking minus 120. Is that an overreaction or just about right? I'm not going to say an underreaction because, betting the over, you're talking 11 wins already from a team that had a win total of 6.5 3 weeks ago.
Maybe both. Is that possible to be an overreaction, but also be right? I mean, clearly, when you go from 6.5 to 10.5, that's an overreaction. It moved 4 wins already. But their defense is mean. Their coordinator is awesome. Concerns are that Darnold is already a little banged up. Now, he missed anything structural, took a shot to the knee. Going to be okay. Going to allegedly play in week 4. That's what Kevin O'Connell said yesterday. And we've already seen some injuries in the receiver room. Jordan Addison has been banged up basically all season. And Justin Jefferson got dinged up a couple of weeks back. So those are the concerns. When you're buying a stock that's extremely high, you have to consider the things that could go wrong. And if Darnold goes down, what do they do? J.J. McCarthy is not there to save the mail, pick up the football, and keep moving. They're in trouble if Darnold goes down. The schedule also, it doesn't necessarily get tougher, but you go at Packers, Jets, Lions, next 3. Not going to say they're going to lose all 3, but they could lose all 3. Then it gets easier. Colts, Jags, at Titans, at Bears. So of those next 7 games, 4 wins, call it. So now you're at 7. Then you play Bears again. You play Packers again. At Lions, at Seahawks. You get the Falcons. At 10.5, I'd probably go under. But I don't love betting under because this team is probably the most prepared on both sides of the ball in any given matchup. They are ready on offense, ready on defense, have a good kicker. The home field is awesome. I like the number, but I don't think it's bettable at 10.5.
I think it's an interesting conversation because the win total goes up 4 full wins after 3 games. Okay. But as you mentioned, the next 3 games with a bye in the middle, Green Bay, Jets, Lions, your bye points after the Lions game. I'm not saying they're going to lose that Lions game. And hey, you know what? If they start out 6-0, all right, we missed it. That's fine. I'll bet against that happening. Could you imagine the Vikings starting the season 6-0 with that schedule? And then it gets much softer second half of the season. But your buy point is in a month from now, right? And I don't know. Let's say they go 1-2. Everything's fine. They're chilling at 4-2, and they got the really tough part of the schedule out of the way. And then they're as long as Darnold's, then we have more intel on Darnold and his health, and then maybe around that time Jordan Addison comes back. When's Hawkinson going to play? There's that guy too.
Well, he's
Remember
on the
him?
pup list. He's on the pup list, so obviously he misses another week. But I think the rumor was heading into camp that they were hoping to get him back by week 8. I believe that's sort of the aggressive timeline. But let's say it's week 10 or week 11, you still get him for almost half the season. So that will only make life easier on Darnold, who really, really has to stay upright. And I tweeted about this on Sunday. Has he already embraced the livelihood of Minnesota Nation. Have you seen the huge red beard that he's sporting now? He fits
It's
right in. He fits right in there. They just dropped him in, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to grow a huge red beard. I'm going to take this team to 3-0, and the fans are going to fall in love with me. He better stay healthy, though, Joe, because the backup is Nick Mullins right now. Nick Mullins. Not ideal.
We had 6 years of Sam Darnold, and it took 3 games to forget those 6 years. You know what I mean? That's the power of Kevin O'Connell having Justin Jefferson on the outside. All right, let's move on to another team. You go ahead. Throw out a team that you want to discuss.
Carolina, 4.5.
Okay.
Can Carolina get to 5? The number week 1, as the season kicked off a few weeks back, was 5.5 juice to the over, minus 130, minus 140. And you had all these very smart people saying that they are analytically driven. They have a coach that cares, a coach that players love. But what did we do after 2 games? Collectively, not you and I, but as a football watching conglomerate, as a nation. They're going to win 2 games. They might not win a game. So now they're 1-2, which if you do the math, if you win 33% of your games, you're going to get over 4.5. And eventually they might go back to Bryce Young, which is what they've said. But I was texting some guys that are close to that team, and you know who I was texting, but I'm not going to say it. He said, this team is going to fight. This team has a bunch of dogs. Bad quarterback play can eliminate a lot of your motivation. And that's what they had the first 2 weeks. Horrendous quarterback play. And if they can stick with Dalton for maybe another month, maybe things change for Bryce Young. Maybe he hits the film room harder. Maybe he takes things a little more seriously. Maybe he's motivated by this benching. This is not a very untalented roster. This is not a 1-16 team or a 2-15 team. They went out and they got guys like Jadeveon Clowney in the offseason. The biggest issue for them in week 1 and week 2 was quarterback play. And I'm not trying to overreact to Andy Dalton carving up the Raiders, because the Raiders are a bottom 5 team in my opinion. But they fought, and they didn't lie down like Jacksonville did last night. Jacksonville was 0-2, and they got blown off the field. Carolina's 0-2, and they're up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They showed me a lot. For everybody calling them dead, they're 500-1 to win the conference. They're 1,000-1 to win the Super Bowl. But now they only need 5 wins. And 5 wins is not a lot in the NFL. It's just not. So I would lean over 4.5. The public would tell you 2-3 wins. The team is not that bad. With Bryce Young at quarterback, maybe they are. But if they can get veteran quarterback play, and if they can keep the football and not turn it over, why can't they win 4 more games? It's not a lot of wins.
Yeah.
It's not.
I don't know that Andy Dalton keeps the job. That's the question. What are those internal conversations? Are we going to hand it to Bryce Young? Like, what's the scenario? So winnable games, if we look at it for Carolina, winnable games before the season, at Las Vegas, we marked that down as a winnable game, and they won that game. And they came out early, and it was clear that they were on a mission. They got the job done. If I list out, I don't know, winnable games for Carolina this year. At Washington, of course, with that defense. At Denver, tough spot, but yes, they've got the Giants as a neutral site game. Tampa Bay twice. I'd say they could split with them. They could, more likely the home game, but, we just saw them go on the road and win a game. So,
You missed the Bears game at Chicago, October 6th.
They host Arizona. That's one. Yeah, at Chicago. A lot of feelings in that one on both sides after the trade. Remember last year they could do nothing against the Bears offensively. I think that was a Thursday night game. Bryce Young did nothing. So that will be a very interesting spot. Atlanta's beatable. These division games are close. Like I would say any of the division games they could win or they could split with the team. So yeah, I hear where you're coming from. Probably not going to bet it just because I don't know if the plan is to go back to Bryce Young. They're saying they might, but is that the plan? Like, give him a breather. And if he re-enters the conversation, it feels like a totally different bet than how we're talking about it right now. So, yeah,
So
I
some
get it.
some books in the market are 5.5. I'm looking at a 5.5 right now, under -130. But
Mhm.
BetMGM is willing to give you 4.5, which is a substantially better number. I wouldn't bet over 5.5, but over 4.5 -130, I do not think is the worst bet in the world. And you know why I love it even more? Because most people couldn't fathom making that bet, which is why it makes me think it's the right bet.
Dolphins. Can you bet under 7.5? A lot of stuff in question. When do we see Tua? Will we see Tua? Soft matchups coming up this week, because otherwise I think it would be even lower. Coming up next couple weeks, I should say. They host Tennessee, then they go to New England before their bye. After the bye's 4 weeks, does anybody believe Tua's coming back week 7 at Indy?
I don't.
I don't either. Is Tua going to be back this year? If the season is sunk, what's the point? Reevaluate, figure things out. No reason to rush you back on the field. If we're not going to be a playoff team, we're not contending at this point. We know what you can do. It's everything's good. It's just a matter of, are you going to make this commitment to football moving forward? But if they're sitting there, I don't know, 1-5, 2-6, somewhere in that range, what would be the point for Tua to return?
I wouldn't bring him back at all, but that's me. And
Yeah.
people don't want to hear that. Oh, let him live his life. Okay, fine. This is the part of the schedule, though, that is supposed to be easy. This is the collect $200 as you pass go. This is your home against the Titans, at the Patriots, at the Colts, home against the Cardinals. If you've
Tim
got
Boyle.
Tua, if you've
Tim
got
Boyle
Tua,
right
you
now.
win 3 of those 4.
I
You win
know.
3 of those 4 games.
That's what
But
I'm
with Tim
saying.
Boyle, you could lose all of them. He's
Mhm.
horrible. You know what his job has been in the NFL? To hold Aaron Rodgers' clipboard. That's been his job for most of his career. And now he's starting because Tua's out and Skylar Thompson's out. Brutal drop off. I know all the time we talk about how much is this quarterback worth and how much is that quarterback worth. How much is the drop off between Tua and Tim Boyle? It could be 8-9 points.
Yep. Yeah, 1-3. We're not talking 1-2. We're talking 1-3. That game's a pick 'em.
What's the total?
Bet
I haven't looked at
BetMG
that game yet.
BetMGM, yeah, it's one of the 2 Monday night games next week. BetMGM has
37.
Tennessee -1.5. Some places have a pick. Uh 37. It's already gone 2.5 points down. Okay, so why are we not betting Miami under 7.5? Because they could be a stupid organization and rush to a back and thinking they still have a season here?
Because Mike McDaniel wears capri pants and matching jumpsuits, and people think he's cool. That's why.
He's overrated. He's definitely overrated. Is would you bet that, or is there too much up in the air?
It sounds like you want to bet it. Why don't you just fire it?
Yeah.
Why don't you just do it?
No, that's why I'm asking you. I brought it up because I like it. Because I think that the
I
entire
don't think
season's
it's
going
the
down the
worst
drain.
idea.
Yeah. I think their entire season's going down the drain. I'm surprised that the under is not juiced. And Tennessee, New England, can they win both? Yeah. But if Tua's not coming back, if they win both of those games, I still think they're going under for the season.
I know we don't have a lot of time, but here's another under I would consider.
Yeah.
Dallas, 9.5. I don't think they're getting to 10.
Ooh, I like it.